Echoes of You. In the heart of the Italian countryside, nestled between rolling vineyards and golden fields, stood an old bookstore named La Luz di Parole, the Light of Words. It was owned by Elena, a quiet woman in her early 30s, whose soul lived among poetry, forgotten letters, and the scent of ancient pages. Elena had inherited the bookstore from her grandfather, and though the world outside had changed, inside the store time moved slowly. Tourists came and went, locals passed by with a nod, but Elena rarely let anyone close. Her world was one of quiet beauty, untouched by love, until one autumn morning. A man walked in, brushing leaves off his coat. He looked lost, not in direction, but in heart. His name was Marco, a photographer from Florence, searching for stories, light, and something he couldn't name. He had wandered into the village by accident, or perhaps fate, when his car broke down on the way to a wedding shoot. "Can I help you?" Elena asked, her voice soft like the falling rain outside. Marco looked around the store, smiled, and said, "I don't know what I'm looking for yet. But maybe I'll find it here." Days turned to weeks. Marco's car stayed broken, or so he claimed. He visited the bookstore every day, pretending to search for books, but truly, he was searching for her. They talked about poems, about Neruda, about the way love lived in the spaces between words. Elena, who had spent so many years hidden behind her shelves, found herself waiting for him, watching the door like a girl in a novel. One evening, Marco brought an old camera and took her picture without asking. She frowned at first, but he whispered, "I just wanted to capture the way the light loves you." Their love wasn't sudden, but slow like the ripening of grapes on a summer vine. He taught her to see the world through a lens, and she taught him to hear the world through silence. They would walk beneath the olive trees, read under candlelight, and share stories long after the village had gone to sleep. But Marco's life wasn't in the village. He had a career, exhibitions, a gallery waiting in Florence. When winter neared, he told her he had to go. The moment hung between them, heavy and full of all the words they were afraid to say. "Then go," Elena said, hiding the storm in her chest. "But don't come back just for me. Come back because you couldn't stay away." He left with only a letter. "My dearest Elena. In every photograph I take, I see your light. In every whisper of wind, I hear your name. If I don't return, it's not because I've forgotten you, but because loving you means not holding you back. But if the echo of your voice still calls to me in the night, I'll find my way back to the bookstore, to the pages, to the poems, to you." Months passed. Seasons changed. Elena lived her life surrounded by books and memories. But every time the doorbell rang, her heart paused. And then, one spring morning, just as the wisteria bloomed around the doorway, he walked in. No words were needed. She ran to him, and he held her as if the world had gone quiet and only her heartbeat remained. They married under the olive trees, with books on every table and poems in every guest's hand. And the bookstore stayed open, not just for readers, but for lovers, for those who believed in slow love, in echoes that never fade, and in the kind of stories that only the heart can write. Beneath the paper lanterns. In a quiet town nestled by the sea, where cobblestone streets led to a forgotten harbor and cherry blossom trees whispered secrets in the wind, there lived a girl named Lynn. She ran a small bookshop inherited from her grandmother, the lantern and the quill. Every evening, she lit paper lanterns in front of her store, a tradition started long ago to guide lost hearts home. One rainy afternoon, as the clouds painted the sky in shades of sorrow, a young man stepped into the shop, dripping wet and carrying an old leather suitcase. His name was Aiden, a traveler, a writer, and a soul in search of stillness. He had wandered across continents trying to write a novel but could never find the right ending. That day, he didn't know he'd just stepped into the beginning. "Looking for something in particular?" Lynn asked, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Peace, I think," Aiden replied. "And maybe a book on how to stop running." She smiled, handing him a worn copy of The Little Prince. "Start here." Days turned into weeks. Aiden returned each morning, sometimes for coffee, other times for conversation. Lynn showed him the secret corners of the town, the cliffside where the wind sang lullabies, the cafe that served cinnamon tea at sunset, and the tree where lovers carved their initials. She didn't know it, but he was writing again. Not a story about war or betrayal like before, but something quieter, something filled with light. Whispers of the Sea. On the rugged coast of a small fishing village in Maine, there stood a weathered lighthouse named Northwind Point. For nearly a century, it had guided sailors through storms, fog, and sleepless nights. And for the past 5 years, it had also been the quiet home of a young woman named Alara Hayes. Alara had come to Northwind after the sudden loss of her parents. Once a violinist in a Boston symphony, she left the city to escape the grief that clung to her like shadows. In the lighthouse, she found solitude. She played her violin to the crashing waves and spent her days repairing nets for the local fishermen. Her music, soft and mournful, became the village's lullaby. Then came Finn Marlowe. Finn was a marine biologist, sent to study the migration patterns of whales along the coast. He arrived one misty April morning, drenched in rain and wearing a grin too wide for the gray skies. His research base was just a mile from the lighthouse, and soon, he and Alara became acquainted through brief encounters, passing greetings at the docks, shared coffee at the only diner in town, and eventually, long walks along the shore. Alara found herself smiling again. She hadn't laughed in years, not really. But Finn had a way of listening that made silence feel safe, not lonely. He never pushed her to speak, but when she did, he listened like every word mattered. He told her about the songs whales sang beneath the waves, how they could be heard for miles, sometimes by other whales, sometimes just by the sea. One evening, as the sky blushed with sunset, Alara took out her violin and played by the cliffs. Finn sat nearby, silent, captivated. When she finished, he whispered, "That was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard." She smiled, eyes glistening. "The sea listens. I think it remembers." Finn reached for her hand. "Then let's give it something worth remembering." Seasons changed. Together, they mapped tides, studied whales, and rebuilt pieces of each other's hearts. The lighthouse that had once been Alara's sanctuary became a home filled with warmth, laughter, and music. They painted the old walls, planted wildflowers, and hosted bonfire nights for the village children. But life, as always, had its own tides. Finn was offered a prestigious position in Antarctica, 3 years of groundbreaking research. It was the opportunity of a lifetime. He asked her to come. She hesitated. "I can't leave the lighthouse," she said. "Not yet." He understood. He kissed her forehead the night before he left and promised to write. And he did. Every week, without fail. He sent her postcards of icy horizons, letters filled with love and longing, and once, even a recorded whale song that reminded her of the violin. 3 years passed. She waited, playing, watching the sea, writing back. Then, one spring morning, the sound of footsteps echoed up the lighthouse stairs. She turned, breath catching in her throat. It was him. His hair longer, skin tanned by sun and wind, eyes still the same. Without a word, Alara picked up her violin and played. The notes danced like gulls in the wind, joyful and free. And as the last note lingered, he pulled her into his arms. "I'm home," he whispered. "No," she said, smiling through tears. "We're home." And the sea, ever watchful, whispered back with waves against the rocks, remembering, as always.